Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Kengan Omega Chapter 104. Before I get into this week's review, I of course have to mention my subscriber goal for 2021, hitting 5,000 by the end of the year. So if you're already a fan of my videos and you're not subscribed, you might as well help me reach that goal. The other thing is my Patreon. If you want to help support me and the channel directly, there's a link to that down in the description. If you join the $5 tier, you'll get access to solo leveling and omniscient reader reviews. But if you join either tier, you'll get a shout out at the end of videos, so check that out if you're interested. With that out of the way, let's get on with the review. In this week's chapter, we get the start of the fight between Nicholas and Okoye, and by the start, I mean literally just the start. The end of the chapter is Alyssa calling the round in. But we do get a decent amount of pretty interesting information. So the first thing is we're going back to the Frenchies. Teddy Reiner is here again, or, you know, his Kengan equivalent. And he's brought along Jerome Le Banner, who is a French kickboxer and another real-life martial artist fighter guy, who a lot of people figured Nicholas was based on, you know, from the name and being French. So apparently, in the Kengan universe, Nicholas is actually Jerome Le Banner's brother, which is pretty interesting. And I'd say probably the most interesting part about this is where Jerome says that, yeah, I should have killed him. So that should give us already some pretty good insight into what type of person Nicholas is. I'm wondering if it's because Nicholas is like an evil guy. I mean, it seems like Nicholas is a evil guy. I mean, he seems to have an immense bloodlust and is pretty enthusiastic about wanting to kill people. Or it may just be like, Nicholas is a little shit, I should have killed him. It could be both, really, because Nicholas seems to be, one, an insane murderer, and two, a little shit. So, anyway, we get some interesting commentary from the crowd here. First of all, pretty much everyone in the audience seems to really like Nicholas. He seems to be very popular among the Purgatory crowd. Or at least the non-Kengan crowd, and despite his shitty record in Purgatory, he's very popular among them, so I'm assuming it's just because he's attractive and funny. Because, as we learned last chapter, Nicholas actually has a 4-9 win-loss record in Purgatory, and he was once even demoted to B rank, so he's kind of trash most of the time, but according to Lalong, when he's pushed into a corner, when he has to do his best, he's among the strongest fighters in Purgatory. But I'll get into that a little bit more later. So anyway, the Kengan team is talking about how they really don't trust Okoye. Why is he here? Oma and Okubo even ask Kazi, like, why would you bring this insane guy with a tendency for murdering people into the no-killing tournament? Which, as many people have pointed out, seems like a really, really bad idea. And we actually get some reasoning. First of them is that, you know, this is also sort of a political thing. All of these fighters, or, you know, some of them at least, represent various different factions within the Kengan Association. So bringing Okoye along was important to ensure that, you know, they maintain the support of the life insurance faction. The other reason was that Gozo recommended him, which is interesting because the last time we'd heard about Gozo, it was us being told that Okoye had pretty much beaten him into a coma. So that's pretty interesting. Well, for starters, Gozo's not in a coma right now. He's doing fairly alright and is apparently going to recover. But the other thing is that he recommended Okoye be part of the tournament because he could have killed him and chose not to. So apparently he's gotten way stronger than he used to be. I guess seemingly both in terms of, like, physical strength and resisting his urge to kill. So that's pretty interesting. Now, for our face-off between Nicholas and Okoye, Nicholas wants to, like, shake his hand, and Okoye's, in Okoye's own way, says fuck off. He's going back on the whole, you know, I will destroy all evil, I'll execute justice. So Nicholas decides to respond by slapping Okoye in the face. Now this is interesting because Okoye has the fastest reaction time of any human being on the planet. as far as we're aware. And even almost like, really, Okoye couldn't react to his slap? So either Nicholas is stupid fast, or Okoye just didn't feel like reacting to it. I don't know. But yeah, big disrespect from Nicholas here, though I feel like we kind of expected that from him based on his personality. And then he actually throws a jab at Okoye and hits his left arm. So this is where we start to get into the very interesting thing about Nicholas's fighting style thus far, is that after being hit by Nicholas's jab, Okoye can't feel his left arm anymore. Now, Nicholas makes some references to how the Grim Reaper doesn't use a scythe, he uses a needle, and we get like a stinger analogy, and a bunch of people were like, oh god, is he using poison? No, it seems like Nicholas is doing like a pressure point thing, where he'll hit someone at a certain point in their body, and they'll lose feeling in that body part. But it doesn't seem like Okoye loses use of it. Like, his hand is still in a fist, so it's not like he lost all feeling in it, or he lost all use of the hand. It's just he can't feel it anymore. It's like when you get Novocaine, you could still use your mouth, but you just don't feel it. So I'm wondering what exactly Nicholas's strategy with that is going to be. Now, a lot of people have been thinking that Nicholas is going to use savate, which is basically French kickboxing. This is, of course, based on the last name. And I personally support this theory, or I did. It's not clear if he's still going to use savate. I think he could, especially, you know, with the relationship to Jerome Le Banner. So I think we'll still see something like that from him. But it seems like for the start of the match, Nicholas is going to have some kind of pressure point thing going on, and I don't think this is going to last. So here's my prediction for how this fight is going to turn out. We're going to have Nicholas, like, kind of initially getting the upper hand on Okoye because Okoye doesn't fully understand what his fighting style is. He's hitting pressure points. And then Okoye will come up with a strategy, and he will start beating the shit out of Nicholas. He is going to beat the ever-loving Christ out of Nicholas for a chunk of this fight. Or at least there's going to be a point where Nicholas is like being beaten into a pulp. And then we get into a little something I like to call peak condition. So, as a lot of people have pointed out over the last week since Chapter 103 came out, Nicholas seems a lot like Hatsumi, where he's just kind of like a chill guy who's playing around all the time. He doesn't have a particularly great win-loss record, although Hatsumi's was better than his. But when things get serious, Nicholas is a monster, which seems to be what Lalong implied last chapter. So I have a feeling that Nicholas works in a similar way to Hatsumi, where most of the time he's just kind of a schmuck, but when he's in like a serious fight against someone who can beat him, or he's in a life or death situation, he goes into peak condition, which in Nicholas's case is probably going to be some kind of psycho murder mode, and I have a feeling that the way this is going to turn out is that Nicholas is going to end up killing Okoye in very violent fashion, very high difficulty. I don't think this is going to be a one-sided slaughter. I feel like this is going to be the two of them tearing each other apart, and the arena is just going to be a bloody mess by the end of this. But I'm still pretty confident in my prediction that Nicholas is going to lose under Purgatory rules. So Okoye and the Kengan team are going to get the win, but Okoye is going to die in the process. And I think, getting a little far into the future here, I do think that this opens up the potential for Lalong to go next time, because it would be the first time that Kengan gets a lead. And I think if there's any time that Lalong would come out, it's when, the ship really needs to be turned around. Kengan having the lead over Purgatory in their own game is pretty embarrassing. So I can imagine after this round is where we're really getting into territory where it's actually possible, or not even possible, likely for Lelong to go up. So, well, that's pretty interesting, to say the least. But yeah, with that, that's all I have to say for this week's review. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Kengan Omega chapter reviews every week. If you enjoy other series such as Record of Ragnarok, Jujutsu Kaisen, Black Clover, and Kaiju number 8, I do videos in those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. If you enjoy discussing Kengan Omega with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to that down in the description. Since it's the end of the video, it's time to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons, Archbear, CJ2K, Fuse, Neo, Solo Warrior, Tyrese Simmons, Dijon Redden, Honey Mustard, Zach Rowitz, and Kgod. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out or access to some extra content, you can always join a Patreon. Join the Patreon. There's a link to that down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.